leading morning talk radio host you know and love. It's your host, Adam Josh. Good morning, everybody. I'm a radio show host. I'm making sure this thing's right side up right now. Hey, everybody. Yeah, upside down again. We're not doing this upside down. So I guess the device has to be facing this way. To me, that seems upside down. What if we do this? Are we right side up now? Yeah, we're right side up now. I don't mean to waste your time with this, people, but it should be right side up, right? You never know. Alright, everybody, you're listening to the internet. You can find this song on my website, adamjosh.com, under the music section, under the category Other. Over the years, you know, if I had an hour here or there, I would just bang out some weird songs. This one I did in 2005, if you believe that. It's a long time ago. Bless me. Anyway, so yeah, there's a bunch of songs there. AdamJosh.com for all your music needs. We are recording the Morning Banana Show number 49. And yesterday, for the first time in a while, we had done a Morning Banana Show. And I was excited about that to get back into it. And Civilian X, aka at Bookish Neptune on YouTube, longtime Twitter friend of mine. I would like to meet the guy in person one day. We can take it to the next level, in the third dimension. But anyway, him and I were chatting on Twitter, and the topic of nuclear weapons came up. And this is a big topic, and you know, we're both flat earthers, so the flat earth community, in my opinion, has been somewhat divided about this topic of nuclear weapons. And I think it's kind of one of those situations where we grow up believing one thing, and then you start scratching the surface of the things that you believe, and you realize that things may not be as simple as you've been led to believe. Like, there may not be something like a bomb that, if you drop it on a city, it vaporizes the whole city and leaves nuclear radiation for 100 years. Maybe that didn't exist in the 60s and the 70s, and maybe we just kind of believed it because we were told it. And it worked. I mean, the marketing worked. And we believed it. I don't know. So, it's a big topic, the topic of nuclear weapons and the fact that there may not be any. And Civilian X and I got started on it. And so this will be kind of like a part 2. We're at Morning Banana number 49. I do have a banana here, so this will be the 49th banana that I'm eating. I'm going to give him a buzz. Hopefully he answers the phone. Don't tell him this, but I came into the office just to have this chat with him because I'm going to be doing some landscaping today. So I got the truck outside with 1,000 pounds of triple mix, like 50-50 and something else soil in it. But, you know, it's early in the morning, it's 8, 15, something like that, and I thought, I have this time until 9, let's do it. We're going to do it. And I'm going to call him right now. Thank you for your patience. Continuing on the conversation of nuclear weapons in private.
Good morning once again.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Civilian X. Thank you so much for joining the Banana Show number 49, and welcome back. Welcome back.
I'm not quite as up and at it this morning, so excuse me.
Yeah, did you grab a coffee yet?
I don't drink coffee. Water only. But I think you're an hour ahead of me, aren't you, Eastern?
Well, right now it's 8:20 a.m. here, so it's 7 there?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. I apologize. I thought we were on the same time zone. I'm an hour ahead. All right.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I stayed up too late last night. It's my fault.
Yeah, same. Desiree and I are working our way through the all the recommended Marvel movies that you need to watch before you watch the Endgame. This Avengers Endgame movie.
I've seen ads for it. I haven't been keeping up. So.
Yeah, one thing that her and I have, we don't agree on a lot of movies, but ones that we did agree on was like the latest Avengers movies and Marvel movies. She seems to like sci-fi movies like that, and it's like the only genre that her and I can agree on. The rest we don't like. If she likes one thing, I don't like it. But so
plus with the kids too. So.
Well, exactly, but we can't watch these, we don't watch these guns and fighting movies with the kids at all. So we pick out different movies for them. But last night we were watching Guardians of the Galaxy #2. It's like I fall asleep now. I just fall asleep watching movies. But yesterday we were chatting about, we started scratching the surface of getting into the huge topic of nuclear weapons, and I said in the last video that you're a little bit older than I am, so you might remember these things like in first person, like remembering it as it happened. For me, I read stories and ask my mom and dad about like this type of stuff, and I was always shocked to find out that with like Little Man and Fat Boy being dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, I was always surprised that my parents' answers were like, oh yeah, we heard about that on the radio, or we watched it on a black and white TV, and it's just such a different information age now that I find myself wondering, like, what if that was a lie? What if they were being sold a bill of goods back then? And then I started doing some research a few years ago and found that, like, something like you were mentioning yesterday about Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the cities looked like they were firebombed, and people were walking around like days after, and it doesn't seem like what we were told a nuclear weapon would do was done to these cities. So yesterday we got a little bit cut short for time, but today the whole show is just, I want to focus on this one point about nuclear weapons if we could.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I know that, we're always just scratching the surface, and it's, at some point, me, myself, I really just don't dig anymore. Not to say I'm not open-minded to some things, and not to say I think I know it all, but I think there's enough evidence out there that, nearly everything we've been taught a lie or been told is a lie. So we have to just kind of read around, read between the lines and, figure it out for ourselves. But yeah, I mean, where do we start? What's on my mind a lot is about North Korea.
Right.
Okay, so, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago, North Korea supposedly shot, maybe it was just 2 years ago, but they supposedly shot a ballistic missile into space.
Right.
So officially, that last missile that they shot, the one that they claimed that was in space, that was 1,500 miles in altitude. Okay? So that's key to remember. That's higher than the supposed ISS. That's higher than a lot of our satellites, not the, other ones that are 22,000 miles away. But nevertheless, so my point is with that, it's just saying that, and that's not been the only test that North Korea has supposedly shot into space, but, we, this whole time, have just let North Korea just nilly-willy shoot missiles into space, potentially, harming all the satellites, harming the ISS, 20 years worth of work and all of that. It's just a preposterous idea that has even been happening. I think that alone should seal the deal for a lot of people, that there's no way that's reasonable. It's not even logical. So, anything about all the countries in the world who have supposed satellites in space, they didn't decide to come together and say, hey, wait a minute, there's this crazy dude over here nilly-willy shooting just ludicrous. I just can't believe that people believe that mess.
And the first instance that I've ever read about firing off nuclear weapons into space was Operation Fishbowl, which was kicked off in the 60s with a series of various altitudes and apparently nuclear detonations being detonated in low Earth orbit or whatever you would call that. And
Yep.
I'm not sure. I mean, what do you think about Operation Fishbowl? What were they blowing up in the sky? Or were they blowing up just regular bombs?
Well, certainly some kind of high yield bombs, which, you know, if you go research nuclear weapons, you actually get a lot of information. So something that supposedly is so dangerous, yet there's so much information out there, and there's information, you know, actually comes from the military. Now, how much of that is 100% accurate, meaning the science behind it, or the supposed science, I don't know. But my point is, there's a lot of information readily available, and enough information to where, so I think kind of the agenda there is to put out so much information about it so that you believe that terrorists can build what's called a dirty bomb, okay? But back to your original question, you know, who knows exactly what they were detonating? Obviously, in my opinion, they weren't detonating nuclear weapons. What were they doing? I mean, it could be logical that they were, you know, people call it the dome, or people believe they were trying to break through the
Yeah.
dome. I mean, it's plausible. I don't know that I 100% believe that, or that's what I think they were doing. Were they doing anything?
Yeah.
That's my question to begin with. We don't even know that. How do we even know what they were doing?
No, we don't. And
So it could have been smoke and mirrors, just like a distraction from other things. So who knows?
yeah, I'm curious as to how nuclear weapons in countries that allegedly have nuclear weapons ties in with the Antarctic Treaty, and what, like, the countries that have agreed to keep control over people of the masses inside of this section of Earth, inside the Antarctic ice walls. I'm wondering how having nukes ties in with that treaty, because if, I don't know, to me it's very interesting. I mean, I don't know if I'm just grabbing at straws here, but I've thought over the years when I've heard about various countries having nukes, what I've always heard in my mind, instead of what the news cycles are saying, is, well, these countries, like North Korea for instance, this country is making long-range missiles, or is trying to make missiles that can reach up to a height that would be able to have a camera mounted on it if needed, and be able to show the world that Earth is not a ball, as we've told, but that it is flat. And that ability of this country to show with a missile or a rocket that the Earth is not actually what we've been telling everybody it is, that is AKA a nuclear threat. And so we have to take action, because this country is now threatening, or nuclear threatening, our global order, or our ball Earth. So we have to, contact this country and figure out what we're going to do about it. Are they going to be brought into the fold and join the nuclear weapons treaty countries? And then we're going to have to toe the line. Okay, now North Korea has nukes and they're one of us. Or, like, I've always wondered how it kind of ties in together with Flat Earth, because it's like they all agree, okay, we're going to agree that, yeah, Israel has nukes and Russia has nukes, and we all agree that these countries have nukes, and they all also simultaneously agree that Earth is a ball. So it seems like a two-manifold, or a bifurcated agreement to me. I'm not really sure if I'm just grabbing at straws, but I do find it kind of ironic that both come up at the same time.
Well, absolutely. The North Korea rocket that supposedly went 1,500 miles in altitude had a camera on it.
I didn't know that.
Okay, and then they show you these short clips of course, a portion of the ball Earth, which looks no different than what you would see from a supposed SpaceX launch.
Yeah.
So they looked about the same. And yeah, you're right. Every time, if you were to watch any documentary on the History Channel or something like that, they're going to show the ball Earth with these ICBMs going into space.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely ties into that. And then you have the space treaty. So, and matter of fact, North Korea is a member of the space treaty. So you can't be nilly-willy shooting things into space, even underneath their own treaty. And a lot of people don't know that, but underneath the space treaty, that's more complex than the Antarctic treaty. And you never hear many people mentioning about that, but the space treaty is extremely complex. You can't even shoot a device into space and film or take pictures of the Earth without permission.
I vaguely read about that before, and they started that in '67. Isn't that a coincidence? Right before the Apollo missions, right?
Yeah, and they changed the name over time, and I can't remember the really long name that it was offhand. I'd have to look it up. But
yeah, I got it. The Treaty on Principles Governing the Activities of Stars in the Exploration and Use of Outer Space, including the Moon and other celestial bodies.
Objects.
Yeah.
Or other celestial bodies, I think it says.
Yeah, you got it. Including the Moon and other celestial bodies. That's the formal name.
Yeah, to me, it's just comical. I mean, all these stories like the Manhattan Project and all that, they're all just fantastical stories. Like they claim that the Manhattan Project was using 10% of all of the electricity used in the United States during that to build this first bomb. And did you know that they didn't even test so they used two different types of bombs, basically, or two different delivery methods or detonation methods for Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But long story short, they didn't even test the Hiroshima bomb.
Huh.
So and as we mentioned yesterday, in my opinion, they didn't even need to do this. The war was already pretty much over. We had already devastated all these cities, So they spent all this time and money supposedly developing these bombs, and the Hiroshima one they didn't even test. Of course, they claim they tested the type of bomb they used on Nagasaki. I forgot the name of that. Trinity. They did the Trinity test.
Okay.
So they tested the bomb one time, and then, they dropped that one on Nagasaki, and then the one they dropped on Hiroshima they didn't even test. So yet again, another part of the fantastical story that, official story a lot of people don't have.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so many different things. I think I'd like to kind of do more research into the nuclear energy and, just on my past time to try to see the difference there, because I would like to be able to bring that to people with a more educated view. So I don't know a lot about the nuclear energy and how they claim that works. Just enough to get myself in trouble, I guess. But that's going to be my next step, is to do some more research in that area.
Yeah, I mean, when I first heard about this fake nuke thing about 4 or 5 years ago, that nukes weren't as they are presented to us, I thought, well, maybe they were just putting nuclear waste in the tip of a rocket or the tip of a warhead on a missile and firing that off, so that would be a nuclear bomb. But that's a kind of...
Basically, the official story is that creating the bomb itself or making the process of nuclear energy is actually very simple. They claim that terrorists could even, use it from, or could make a bomb, what they call a dirty bomb from this depleted uranium and all of that.
Yeah.
So really what I'm trying to say is that the official story is that to get the highest yield possible, that is what takes all this effort and, science and all these calculations, millisecond timing and all of this other stuff. But on the other hand, blowing up a small city apparently is very simple. So, I don't like to fearmonger.
Yeah.
However, I see some things that I think that they're pushing in, predictive programming, and I think that may be one of them, that they're going to have some type of dirty bomb. And it'll be a smaller explosion than, let's say, they claim Hiroshima was or whatever, and it's going to make it plausible to the sheep out there
And to
who
be...
got their hands on this material. So, look, this has been going on for 70 years.
Yes.
70 longer than 70 years, and still to this day, only one country has used a nuclear weapon in an act of aggression.
Yeah. And when you start looking into it, it's like, did they even really use a nuke? Because it doesn't look like it.
I mean, look, there's no way possible. It's completely unrealistic to believe the official story. What is the absolute 100% truth? Hey, I don't know. I just know that the official story is just completely ridiculous.
And we're not saying, neither of us are saying that exotic weapons don't exist. We're just saying that nuclear weapons, as told to us, it's not real.
Absolutely. I mean, the Nagasaki bomb, for instance, the nuclear material in that bomb was no bigger than a softball. So that's what they want you to believe, that they could take material no bigger than a softball and they can blow up an entire city. Just that alone seems implausible.
I think direct energy weapons are a lot more...
The bomb wasn't much more material than that either, so.
Yeah. I would say direct energy weapons are a lot more dangerous than what we've been told about nukes.
Oh, absolutely.
If you look at what happened to California with their alleged wildfires, to me, or like 9/11, for example, that could have been a direct energy weapon right down through the top of the tower with bombs placed in different levels of the building to do a controlled demolition, and also melt the steel columns with DEWs. But I'm not sure. I wasn't there, but I feel like direct energy weapons or scalar technology or even rail guns would be a lot more dangerous than what we were told that nukes did to Hiroshima or Nagasaki.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And, I think, we try to stay on topic the best we can, but there's the big threat of the EMP, so supposedly a nuclear weapon creates an EMP blast, and they have figured out how to only get the EMP blast. And I think, yet again, that's another fantastical story, that you can detonate a bomb above a city that creates such a big EMP blast that it knocks out all the power. Well, little do people know that you actually only need a cell phone tower to knock out a power substation. It doesn't take much effort to send a jolt to the motherboards of those substations and cause some kind of catastrophe.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're being fed a lot of porn propaganda, fear porn. So it's tough to say. What is it all for? Well, they ain't doing it for nothing, I don't think. So it's one of those things. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what they plan to do with it.
Yeah, it's gonna.
Obviously,
Go ahead.
I think obviously there's going to be some kind of event, and they're going to blame it on the terrorists.
Yeah, I've always thought that we're being prepped for a fake alien invasion, and lately I've been developing that a little bit better to explain to people that it's not just going to be a fake alien invasion. It'll be a fake alien invasion, and then the only answer to be able to kill these aliens will be to nuke the city. And then out of the ashes of this nuclear bomb, quote unquote, dropped on whatever city these aliens happen to land in, then maybe we could form a new world order or a new world army, one world army, which the precursor to that would be like NATO or Space Force, and the nations of the world would unite, as Reagan fantasized about in his address to the United Nations. We would unite around a global threat of aliens and form this one world army and one world order. Maybe that's stretching, but it seems to be like a long-term agenda. Like you said, it's been 70 years in the making. So like they've indoctrinated whole generations that this thing, nuclear weapons, is the most deadliest weapon that we have. And
the movie Independence Day, they try to use nukes on them,
Yeah.
I think that's possible. And I think you're right. It obviously ties in together. So we basically have three major hoaxes that we're looking at. One is an asteroid impact.
Yeah.
One is some kind of nuclear war, or what you're saying, and of course, then we have the alien invasion.
Yeah.
And I think that either one of them can lead to the, abolishing paper money. I think that's the big goal here. They need to abolish paper money and get everybody on the electronic system.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's one of those, or a combination of those, is going to happen. To bring that into play. And hey, I always say this. Remember, 9/11, man, it was a bright, beautiful day. Remember. So my point is, it's going to happen instantly. We're not going to get any warning.
Yeah.
You can use all the gematria you want.
Yeah.
But you're not going to get any warning unless you're one of them. So
we used to.
I do prep for things like that. Just having food and water on hand, because I don't want to be one of the dumb sheep standing in line waiting for the government to feed me after they've done created some false flag.
Yeah.
I think I'll say this though about it: people who prep, better get their stuff in order, because there again, you're not going to get any warning, and the chances of you surviving some kind of event where you're going to use your prep items is going to be very unlikely.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, sorry to get off on another tangent again.
No, it kind of all ties together. Like, I think most people who listen to us or who watch this show are semi-preppers. I think a lot of people, like I know some of our audience that follow us and that or will watch later, and talking to a few of them personally, I know that we're all pretty handy people that have a good head on our shoulders and are willing to prep. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, it's almost, when you go down that rabbit hole of prepping, there's almost no amount that you can prep that's good enough. If you think about the deep underground military bases of the world, it's like we're way outnumbered and way out-budgeted by the military-industrial complex with their deep underground military bases. I don't know any prepper that I've ever met in my life that could ever come anywhere near that.
No, absolutely not. No, we have to be realistic about it. And even local events, and with outbreaks, whether they're real or produced, I just think it's important to have some supplies on hand. I'm not
Absolutely.
one of these get in your bunker preppers. However, I do always say, though, you might want to get in your bunker.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be bad, whatever it is. But there again, I don't like to try to fearmonger, but I think it is important to be vigilant. We have to be vigilant, And some people will tell me, "Oh, well, I'll just die." Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Just die.
So your overall opinion on nuclear weapons in general? I mean, the first time we heard about them, for me, was before I was born. I know that you're a little bit older than I am, but I don't think you were around when Little Man and Fat Boy were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, were you?
No, of course not. No, I was born in the 70s.
Okay, so what's your overall opinion on this nuclear weapons?
I grew up with the same exact, propaganda. It's been in the back of our heads since day one, And, speaking of the Hiroshima and all of that, like, the only footage exists of that is from the plane that supposedly dropped them, right? So I just find that fascinating. There's no proof of any of this. It's just a fantastical story. That's all it is.
Yeah, and like we were talking about in the last video that we did, Morning Banana Show number 48, we were mentioning that people to this day live in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but nobody lives in Chernobyl. It's so, backwards.
Goodness, yeah, and, the claims of all that, radiation on the ground, there's another fantastical story. I mean,
on that point, sorry to cut you off, but okay, so you know that I had a professor as a house guest for a while, a math and science professor. He's a world traveler, this type of guy. Very, very academic, very high class. We had a lot of conversations that weren't related to flat Earth, by the way, and one of them was that he's been to Chernobyl with a Geiger counter, and he goes, the tour guides were scaring the crap out of everybody, like, you can't go here, you can't go here, look at the Geiger counter, look at the meter, the Gauss meter. And then, so he bought one, because he was so intrigued, he wound up buying a Gauss meter or Geiger counter, whatever you want to call it. and he brought it back to his house in Germany, and he said the radiation was off the charts, more so around his house and around the university that he teaches at than it was in Chernobyl. And he goes, wouldn't you find that funny? Don't you think that's odd, Adam? And I said, well, why? Do you have Wi-Fi towers everywhere? And he was kind of like not paying attention, not following what I was getting at. I was saying maybe it had something to do with the cell towers, and he just said, no, I'm not really sure why it was, but there was more radiation in parts of Germany than there was in Chernobyl.
So, kitty litter, for instance, sets off a lot of these radioactive sensors, like at airports, and supposedly this is pretty routine at U.S. airports. So I remember even my scrapyard back in the day that I used to go to, they had some radioactive censoring thing there, right? And it went off one time when I was taking a load of aluminum.
Yeah.
So, I'd mentioned that yesterday, that, we don't know for sure unless we can visit these places and have the equipment. However,
yeah.
how do we know exactly what that equipment